Welcome to Leaders with Heart. I'm your host, Paddy McDonald, and today we're speaking with Shannon Hurley from the Salty Tribe, who is out there helping women overcome their fears by taking them into the ocean, face to face with sharks. And through this work and her own experience with sharks and the ocean and whales, she has developed a really fascinating insight into the realm of fear and the ways that we can navigate this both in leadership and our own lives as well. So I know you're going to enjoy this conversation with some powerful perspectives. And if you have any questions, reach out to either of us on the links in the show notes. Enjoy. Welcome to Leaders with Heart. I'm here today with Shannon Hurley, who is the founder of Salty Tribe, which is a women's wellness organization that connects women to the ocean and gives them breakthrough experiences through adventures with sharks and whales and all sorts of other exciting things. So Shannon, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Paddy.
So great to have you here. I've been really excited for this conversation because of my own personal love for animals and the ocean as well. And you're someone who really inspires me with the way that you've taken your passion and really just dove in and actually made it happen. So I'd love to hear a little bit about Salty Tribe and what it is that you do with the women that come on your retreats.
Yeah, sure. So I founded the Salty Tribe, a couple of years ago now. And really, its whole intention is to really leave women feel empowered through the ocean. And we do that through a number of different ways and, through retreats, swimming with sharks, or more local events on the surf coast, back where I live. And really, it's founded on the fact that the ocean is a huge teacher for us and is so powerful that when we can connect with it, whatever it is, whether it's walking on the beach, whether it's doing a meditation, whether it's getting in it and snorkeling and exploring it, I think it can leave us something deeply transformational to bring forth into our own lives. And that interconnectedness and sense of place that we can feel with the ocean, I think helps us to be able to then give back to what sustains us in the first place. And so it's a whole big loop there. And when it comes to specific marine life like sharks, I think sharks are an incredible teacher in themselves, and particularly when it comes to fear, because so many people fear sharks. And there's an important lesson in that is instead of being afraid of fear and leaning away from it, what happens when we actually lean into fear, when we lean into sharks and get to know them, we can actually transform that fear into something so great. And I've just seen how powerful those experiences are with the women that are so scared of sharks and they come face to face and they're so close and something inside them transforms and there's so much power within that.
It's incredible. Amazing. Speaking of fears, I just want to address my own fear that I haven't clicked record because my screen's gone dark. See that there. And we are good. So let's keep going.
I was thinking that too, so I'm glad you...
Let's keep going. So that's incredible. And let's speak about sharks because it's something that you are so passionate about. And you're right, I think the mention of them brings associations like the movie Jaws and just this sense of danger and the unknown. But your reality in terms of how you've experienced sharks has been very different from what I've heard. Tell me a bit about your relationship with sharks when you first connected with them and how that evolved.
Yeah. I remember first watching Jaws and being absolutely terrified and, and then I guess, conscious of that fear and seeing other people's fear actually helps to exacerbate your own fears of them too. But I remember going on my first scuba diving liveaboard boat trip and it was in the Great Barrier Reef. And part of this, where we just scuba dive every day. And one of the particular days we were doing a shark feeding dive with reef sharks. And I was a bit like, oh gosh, I have no idea what to expect. But I think when I was younger, I hope people can relate to this as well. Sometimes we're just a bit naive at times and we just go in and we just do stuff. We don't really give it a second thought. And this is probably one of those experiences for me. And I just remember being under the water, like 15 meters below the surface, breathing the air underwater and looking at these sharks, and they were swimming everywhere, darting around in front of you, above you, behind you. And it was the first time I saw sharks in the flesh and not on a movie, not listening to the media headlines. on a local, newspaper headline. And I actually just got to experience sharks for myself. And that really challenged my beliefs. It challenged the beliefs that society places on sharks. And I saw a different side to them. And I just got to observe them in their element, doing their thing. And that was a huge moment for me, because I then became slightly fascinated or obsessed with sharks. I think that was the moment where I really was like, these are so cool. And then it really just caused me to want to dive and swim with sharks all over the world and have more of those experiences for myself. And that's kind of where it all really stemmed from, is seeing them for myself. And I think that's why I've been so eager to share with other people and other women what can happen for them too. We can actually swim and see sharks for ourselves.
Beautiful. So I'm hearing your own personal journey of facing fear has really been supported by sharks. And then the benefit of that is you've had these incredible life experiences with these beautiful animals.
Yeah, definitely. And there's been I've probably swam with quite a few different species of sharks, but there was another particular time which I think really changed things for me on that personal level. Like, I was able to see sharks and probably disseminate some of those societal beliefs that maybe had been put on myself, and probably get put on all of us from the movies we watch, that really play on that ingrained fear that we can have, that's really, inherited from our ancestors and things like that. But what it came down through for me was actually, in the end, it wasn't the fear of sharks. It was actually the fear of myself and my own anxieties that came up when I was in the ocean one particular day. And then I believe that when we want to do something, we want to do something so much, we actually can push through those fears and break through and onto the other side. And that's what happened with me with sharks, because I just love sharks so much. I wanted to go swimming with them so much. And one particular time I had a panic attack underwater, and that sort of really put me into a state of like feeling, I'm not going to be able to scuba dive. I'm not going to be able to swim with sharks anymore. But then I just sort of continued with it, and I realized that I really wanted to swim with hammerheads in the Galapagos. Cool. And so I went to do that. And because I wanted to swim with them so badly, I pushed through all the other fears that I guess had built over time for me, that wanted me to stop scuba diving and stop what I was really passionate about. And I think that for me, and what I'm seeing with facilitating other women to go swim with sharks and scuba diving, is that sharks, whether we have a fear of them or not, can actually help us to be a mirror, to reflect back some of those really important messages we need to see around fear in ourselves, whether it's with sharks or whether it's with something else in our life.
So cool. I love that story. What I heard in that is this real kind of almost battle between the fear and love inside of you, and you found a love that was greater than your fear, and that helped you push through those and really grow. And you're right, it's such a great metaphor, because like, this is a leadership podcast, and in leadership, like, it's all about pushing ourselves to new heights and to facing fears, and they might be more interpersonal or more in just how to navigate certain situations rather than coming face to face with something with teeth. But this is all part of the practice of growing our ability to face fears. So have you seen any examples of people that have come on your retreats that have had like life transformations that have even been beyond the experience with sharks?
Oh, definitely. And I've seen women that thought that they didn't have a fear of sharks, or thought that they would be fine scuba diving, but then faced with their own fears. So in a way, they've had to become their own leader.
Yeah.
In that environment, and come across their own barriers that stop them from doing those things that they want to do. But then you see the gold in them, like just keeping at it and not giving up and trying something different. And actually part of it has been, and I think this relates to leadership in a way, that there's a letting go that needs to happen. And I think the water and the ocean is such an important metaphor for how we do that, because sometimes, just like scuba diving, we have to let a lot of stuff go. We have to let go of different beliefs of like, we can't do it, or we're not good enough. And I think those things are the things that can come up in leadership a lot of the time too. But when we actually just let go of some of that stuff that we know is not helpful, then it enables us to explore new depths and get to new places. And there's one particular woman that came on a recent shark retreat, and she actually did have a really strong fear of sharks. And like I'm talking like level 9 out of 10. And I think it also sings to what support can do, what you can do with support. And I think in a leadership sense, we shouldn't be afraid to ask for the support that we need, even though sometimes we feel like we need to be a leader and do everything on our own. But what happened when this woman felt support from us around her to be able to guide her into the ocean, to explore those fears for herself? Like, she was able to go down there, become within half a meter of a shark, scuba dive, and have all the, the challenges that come up with just breathing underwater in itself, and really transform her life. And the ocean is a huge support for that too.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I had my own experience with fear and letting go, where I remember I was going scuba diving in Thailand, a place called Richelieu Rock. You might have heard of it. It's a beautiful pillar of rock way out in the ocean. And so I'd done a lot of my scuba diving close to shore previously, and going out into the open ocean and going down into the deeper water definitely brought up this fear, I'd say primarily the unknown. And I remember being on the boat going out there thinking like, is this a good idea? Like, is there actually like a solid chance here that like something could go wrong and this could be one of my last experiences? And logically it doesn't make sense, but like the fear was very, very real and tangible. And I remember the way I came to terms with it was like, well, if I go, at least I'm doing what I love. So let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And that definitely helped me just like let go and have the most incredible experience. There weren't any sharks actually in that that location at the time, but it just showed me that like just trusting that if I'm not meant to do it, then I wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
So I love that. And I really love that this topic of fear is something that's so present in the work you're doing and in this conversation, because it's something I feel that we can often avoid in conversations, and especially in leadership. It can be something that there's a desire to project this image of strength and no fear. And there's that old quote by, I think it's Nelson Mandela, that courage is not the absence of fear, but action in the face of it. So by bringing our fears to our awareness, there's an ability to now face them and choose to act and choose to employ courage. So yeah, is there anything that you've like really learned about fear specifically, whether it's shark related or unrelated, that you want to share with people?
Yeah, definitely. I love that. It's I love that quote, because there is so much gold and power when we do lean into that fear instead of shy away. And I think my own personal experiences with that, which have led into what we do on the shark retreats, is the idea of embracing fear. And it's not about conquering it or fighting it. It's actually just about embracing it. And I think like with any emotion that we feel, there's a sense of what happens when we lean into it and embrace it and connect with it, like build a relationship with it, because I think there's always a message to tell. And I guess relating it back to sharks, is that when we lean in and embrace that fear, we just can have so many powerful life learnings from that. And if I relate it back to the experience that I had in the Galapagos diving with hammerhead sharks, it was something I've learned along the way. It's not a fear of doing the thing. It's actually the fear of ourself not being able to handle the thing that we're doing. Like, how are we going to respond? Like, are we going to die if we go down under the water and that face the unknown? Like, what is going to happen? And I think what's really helped me to be able to do that is befriend fear, embrace it, like start talking to it. And that's what I've had to do over those times, because I must say, like, even though I guide women with the ocean, like I still have my own fears that come up when I'm out there in massive, big waves, or there's rips and currents. And that's been probably some of the biggest life lessons for me about how I talk to myself and my own fears through that. Like, am I kind to myself? Like, do I talk to it? Do I embrace it? And doing that and asking fear, like, actually, like something that I've done that I found being really helpful is just to give my fear a name. So my fear is called Faye. So Faye will sometimes come up and pop up her head and be like, hello, I'm still over here. And just talking to him and be like, hey Faye, I see you, I got you, I know you're there. I'm not gonna dismiss you. I know you're there. And
So Faye's valid. Faye has a place.
Faye has a place, yeah. Embracing Faye.
Yeah.
And just let's embrace that. And I think that having that approach can totally change our relationship with fear and help us to do those things that sometimes we have been too scared to do.
Yeah. Incredible.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And so the sharks have been a great teacher for you. It sounds like the ocean as well is something else that can invoke fear in people, and I can relate to that. I remember getting caught in a rip in Costa Rica and thought I had it under control, and then all of a sudden, like twice as far out as I thought I was. I'm calling for help, and I'm like, okay, that's humbling. There's a great reminder that I am not even a drop in the ocean when it comes to this. So, and in some ways that fear is, evolutionarily has been put in there for a reason, so that we don't go out into a rip and get swept out on our own. In other ways, though, there are ways to discern when it's what they say is false evidence appearing real. Have you noticed any ways that you can discern like a valid, well, they're all valid fears, but a fear that is to be listened to and to be acted from versus something to be embraced, but then ultimately moved through?
It's a very good question. And I think part of the answer to your question is looking around at the evidence and what is real around us from what we can see. So like all fears, no matter whether and look, it's subjective, it's not for us to say that fear is not real for that person or not as big, because it is for that person. It's what can appear on the surface as a small, tiny little thing can be like life or death situation for someone, depending on what that fear is. And I think one of the ways to discern that is to look around and look for evidence of that fear being real. So say, for example, I don't know, I'm just plucking an idea out of my head. I have a fear that, that person really doesn't like me, or something like that. If I just pick something like that, and then looking for evidence, well, is there real examples of actually that behavior playing out in real life, or are there not examples? And is this sort of just something that I'm creating, in my own head? But I think regardless of what the fear is, I think it's important to not to dismiss it and to really get curious about it. And I think when we can be curious and ask questions and to build that relationship over time, I think we begin to understand, and by asking more questions and feel it like in our bodies, like, is this real, or is this actually just something that I really do not need to, be fearful of?
That makes sense, right? The closer our relationship, the more we understand it. The more we can find those nuances. Yeah. Amazing. What other lessons has the ocean taught you in your time with it?
Oh, so many. How to play, I think, as an adult. And sometimes when I'm really into something, I can get a bit too serious sometimes. And I think, I hope others can relate to that as well. But I think the ocean is such a good reminder of play, and just to be able to play in the waves and duck dive down, and the curiosity that you get from when you go and look on a rock platform, look in the rock pools and see what you can find, the marine life there. It just gets you out of your head. So sometimes if I'm in my head and I'm stressed, if I go down to the beach and look in the rock platforms and see what I can find, you just get curious, and it takes you out of your own out of your own head and actually puts you back into the place of, well, hang on, where am I supposed to be in this world and what's my relationship to this whole ecosystem? And immediately it's humbling.
Yep.
And we can feel that connection that we have with the natural world around us. And sometimes that just makes our own problems seem not as big and makes them kind of like literally just wash away and not seem as important because we are part of this whole web of life. So that's what I would say, play, that connection to place and sense of something bigger than just, ourselves and our own head and what's happening maybe in our households to there's this whole natural world there. So those
Reminds me of the Xavier Rudd lyric, "Follow the sun,
yeah.
take a walk to the nearest water's edge, remember
Yeah.
your place. Many moons have risen and fallen long before you came." It's really, like I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. I've had many times listening to that song, like underneath a eucalypt tree and like looking up at the sky. It's just so good. Yeah, it's bringing back memories. But there's so many and like so many lessons I've seen from other women that come on the retreats, like anything from a sense of like, that they feel like that the ocean has their back to, in life to, oh, I can do this. Like I can do this and I'm a lot more confident and stronger than what I thought I was, and those are huge, powerful lessons that the ocean can teach us, especially if we're doing something that's new. And when we connect with something outside of ourselves and immerse ourselves in that environment, there's so many powerful lessons.
Amazing, amazing. So you mentioned to me earlier that you have a whale retreat coming up later in the year.
Yeah.
Love to hear a little more about that and about your relationship with whales, just because I'm sure it's got elements of the same flavors that your shark retreats do, but with a different animal involved, it's going to have a whole different flavor as well.
Yeah. So me and my dear friend and business, I guess co-facilitator, Konsu, we've been planning this and it's called Whaleness. So it's combining whales and wellness in the same one. So yeah, we're hosting a whaleness retreat in September in Jervis Bay, and really the idea there is that it's to embrace the wisdom of whales. And so whales are such wise creatures, and I think they really just emit that. If you look at their behavior and how they just cruise through the oceans, they can be so graceful, yet they can also be super playful. And it's really about looking in and actually just getting to experience being in the water with whales, looking at them for ourselves, observing them and swimming alongside them as an act of, I think in the wellness area, there's a lot about wellness for ourselves, but really at the heart of what we do and what we try and do as best as we can too is it's not all about what we receive from the ocean, but it's also about what we can give back. And I think the whole concept of wellness is we can be well if the ocean is also well, and that is so intricately tied together. So it's about experiencing and being with whales, but it's also and looking after our wellness, but it's also about how can we look after the wellness of the ocean too, so that we are both in turn well.
Yeah, I love that. So beautiful. Did you say you get to swim with the whales?
Yeah.
That's cool. So cool.
I can't wait.
Wow, I didn't know that was actually possible. Yeah. That's incredible.
There's not a lot of locations really in Australia where you can do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jervis Bay is one of those locations where you can.
Wow.
Yeah, we're stoked to be able to do that. And not only whales, it's seals and dolphins as well. And,
so cool.
There's a whole marine park there. So there's so much to explore on the ocean. So
thinking about the whales, it's reminded me of a little rant that I want to just go on, which is like that when we think about the blue whale, for example, the largest animal on this planet, like the largest animal that's ever existed, full stop. Right? And sometimes I find it fascinating that as humans, we get so excited about things like dinosaurs, but the blue whale is bigger than any dinosaur that ever existed.
Yeah.
And we have the opportunity to protect this animal and keep it alive in our world so that we can experience how beautiful it is. We kind of don't even give it a second thought. Similarly, like people get excited about aliens. Like, have you looked at the deep ocean? Have you seen some of the things down there? Like, they're more alien than any aliens you've ever seen on TV.
Yeah.
And again, like, we just don't even think about it most of the time. So, and this is for me what nature in general, and the oceans are a very strong example of this, is such a gift of like just when we stop and have a look, the awe and the wonder just smacks us in the face and again reminds us of our place, that we're one monkey on this planet amongst millions and millions of other species as well. So like this, as you know, and a lot of people know, I'm passionate about the dingoes and the role apex predators play, and the fact that they manage their entire ecosystem as all the parts interconnected. And just for me, the teaching there is like, great, let's play our role. Let's not like remove ourselves as the superior ones that are here to like own and dominate the planet. Let's work with and enjoy the gifts that they all have to offer, which is what I love about the work you do, and really see the perspective that you're bringing to that. So thank you for that. And, yeah.
Thank you. If I can just say something just on that, the ocean still has like real life aliens, and so I'd recommend anyone to look up the blobfish.
Okay. I think I've seen it actually. It's so interesting.
Yeah, it reminds me of an alien, but I think that's a really good point. Is that, and these are living animals we have here right now.
Yeah.
Like we can actually see them and connect with them right now because they are still living, and let's explore that as much as possible rather than waiting until they go extinct.
Yeah. It's like people talking about bringing back the Tasmanian tiger, and there are less than 1,000 numbats left in Australia. It's like, cool, this is the closest living relative to the Tasmanian tiger. Yeah. Can we just save this one and not have to like genetically modify something else to bring it back?
Yeah.
But so to close out the conversation, Shannon, firstly, thank you for bringing all of your wisdom and magic to anyone listening to this today. Is there anything else that you feel like really important to share around the work you've done or the experiences you've had with oceans, sharks, animals, or anything else?
Maybe it's just a sense of encouragement. I recently did a talk just last week to a Probus group, and they wanted to learn more about the local marine life in their coast in Torquay, and what I just loved seeing was how excited they were to learn about the marine life, and they were all inspired to go down to their local rock pool and go and look and see what they could find and lift up rocks. And I think that for many of us, we aren't always connected to the ocean. Well, we are, wherever we are because the ocean supports us, but we might not live near the beach, or we might not, be a scuba diver. But if there was one thing I could recommend, if you are wanting to explore your ocean, the connection that you have with the ocean a little bit more deeply, is just go down to a local rock pool. And there's so many places to explore that wherever you are, around Australia or overseas, wherever you're listening from, is to go and ignite that curiosity and that awe and that wonder for yourself. And I think rock pools are a great place to do that and learn and just observe, because there's so much power. There's so much that we can learn and take away. There's so much we can even give back just by sitting and watching. And it sounds like really simple. You just sit and watch, but there's so much. That's where I've actually got a lot of my learnings and insights, from just observing the natural world, and the feelings that come with that is just so powerful that that's been the most thing that has inspired me in my life to do what I do. So if, the ocean can help inspire you for your own life, is really just to go and sit and observe somewhere on the coast.
Beautiful. Love that. Thank you so much. Where can people look you up if they want to find more?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, the Salty Tribe _Shannon, or my website is thesaltytribe.com.au, and we run shark retreats, whaleness retreats, and a whole lot of local events on the Surf Coast. So if you're feeling curious or inspired, would love to hear from you. Yeah, feel free to reach out.
Amazing. Thank you so much for the conversation. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to Leaders with Heart today. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you want to hear more inspiring conversations just like this one, you can click on the subscribe button. You can also share this episode with those in your community liking and commenting also helps spread the word. So thank you for being here. If you also want to connect with either myself or the guest, you can find the links in the show notes below. My business is Apex Leadership, and I'm available for consulting and coaching opportunities. Until next time, have a beautiful week and take care.